everyone, welcome to Photoshop Next, and in this class we are going to cover masking. So let's start out, let's create a new file. We're going to select our merch shirt. For our preset details, we are going to call this masking example and hit create. Okay, so we have our blank canvas. Now in this class we're going to take the role of a graphic designer. Now as a graphic designer, you're going to meet with a lot of different clients. A lot of them are from maybe corporations or the marketing department of a large corporation. We have a client, and let's see here. The client is called The Awesome Company. They just do awesome stuff. And when a client gives you all their images and information they want for their graphic design project, they put in a folder called assets. So that's the term you use for just general all the elements, whether it be a logo, a design spec, maybe a color swatch list, or images, and then other elements. They just group them all together as assets. So here is the asset to our project. Now they have a logo, The Awesome Company, that this was made in Illustrator. It's a vector object. And so they give us their logo. Here's an image of looks like a mountain, a desert, and the guy kind of sitting down in awe of the vastness and the great expanse of this area. And then we have this cute little kitten. So the client came to us and they said, we'd like to create a t-shirt showing this guy kind of in awe of this kitty, of a giant kitty, and then we want our logo in it. So let's see if we can do that. So we just select all our images and we're going to dump them into our project just like that. Hit return, hit return, hit return. Now we imported the images. When you import images this way by dragging them from your folder and onto your canvas, you have smart objects. So if you remember Photoshop Basics, these smart objects, you can expand them or shrink them and they don't lose quality, or at least they're the highest quality that they can possibly be. So here is this guy in the mountain. I'm going to hit return. And this is actually kind of a high-res image, so it's okay to scale this up. And then we're going to move our kitty up there. So actually, let's see here. Let's first change the name of our layers. I'm going to call this desert. And then this one we'll call giant kitty. And then this one will just be the awesome logo. And we're going to hide the logo for now. And here's our kitty. So let's see here. So what I would like to do, I want to expand this kitty. I hit Command T, for those of you that don't remember from Photoshop Basics, Command T, and then I hit Shift and Option, or Shift and Alt, and that will allow you to scale the image up, and also it does so right in the center. So it's a really handy tool. And so let's see, we want them about here. Okay, now let's see, I'm going to move and hit return, and there's our kitty. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to crop out this kitty. How are we going to do that? In Photoshop Basics, we use the quick selection tool, where here you can just kind of select the cat this way. And that's one way of doing it, but I'm going to hit Command D and deselect it. So the first thing I'd like you to know is masking. Very important in Photoshop, and as you use Photoshop, you're going to use this a lot. So under your layers, right here, you have a button called Add Layer Mask. You click on it. So here you kind of have a layer next to another layer with a little lock symbol. So this layer here is called a layer mask. Anything black will disappear. Anything white will show up. So let's show an example. So I hit the brush tool and let's go back to a normal brush. Right here, we got our hard brush right here. Actually, I'll do a soft brush. Okay, and so we have black selected. Now what I'm doing is I select this layer mask here. So by default, it's going to select the smart object, or the kitty, but what you want to do, make sure you have the layer mask selected, and then you just paint over it like you would a regular layer. And as you can see here, it is slowly removing parts of the image. And what it's actually doing is it's painting in black into this part. So if I hold Option or Alt, you can actually see what the layer looks like. And here you can actually make some, if you miss an area, you can kind of clean it up. And then I hit Alt or Option and hit the layer again, and you can see it. So that's one way to crop an element. It works great if you have really sharp edges, but of course we have a lot of curves here. So if I want, I can sit down and slowly trace everything. That's a little difficult. I can also use my selection tools right here So let's see here, to create a quick outline of the kitty. Let's see what this looks like. So, and I'm removing the whiskers because the whiskers aren't important right now. And I am just drawing over the kitty. So I have my selection. I'm going to hit Shift Command I, or you can click here for inverse, but I like hotkeys. Shift Command I, and as you can see here, that actually selected everything but the kitty. I'm going to click the layer mask and Alt or Option Delete, and what that's going to do is just delete it. So you can see here we kind of have a rough outline of our kitty. What you can do at this point, you can add like maybe a stroke. So I hit here, this is your effects button, and I'm going to select that for a stroke. We'll make it white. And so this is kind of a cool effect. I use this sometimes for some quick crop outs, and then you can change the stroke right here. So you have stroke selected. And so that's kind of one way. You can make a collage. You can have a collection of images and use the polygon lasso tool to just kind of quickly crop it out and then put a white border around it. And there you go. In fact, if I wanted to, I can select inside the kitty so I don't see the blackness. So, and that's using the layer mask. Now with this layers mask, you see this little icon here. So if I move it around, you can see the kitty kind of moves around. Now if I deselect and remove that little chain in the center, now what happens is the layer mask stays in place, and this layer right here, the image element, starts to move around. Actually, I'm going to undo that. You got to first select the kitty. I had the layer mask selected. That's why I did that. So I'm selecting the kitty, and now you can see the kitty is moving around and the layer mask stays the same. So you can create some neat effects with that, as you can imagine. So let's see. So let's undo that. So that's masking, the basics of masking. So I'm going to delete this. Oh, and also I want to say that, go back here, you can get really clever with this. So another thing we can do is we can select our brush. We're going to go here and make sure the hardness is down. It's kind of our feathered brush. We're going to change the opacity down to like 10 and maybe the flow a little bit down. And we can brush over this. Now keep in mind, I'm on the layer mask. I'm not actually on the element itself. I'm on the layer mask. And you can start brushing. You can see how it starts turning gray. This will kind of create a feather effect. So your element will kind of slowly blend at the edges, and this will make sense in a second. Let's see, let's deselect this, and you can see here. So if I just keep doing this, then it slowly disappears. So that's another way I do a quick cropping. I kind of call it a dirty cropping because it's super, if you can get away with it, then do it. Sometimes in the design or whatever the project is, it doesn't need to be picture perfect, but other time you want to up the professionalism of your design, and so the quality, I should say. So you can see you go here, and then the trick to doing this is make sure you don't have these hard edges. So if I do it enough, the hard edge kind of disappears, and maybe I need to increase it more, but I'm just tapping, and you can see eventually it disappears. That's ideal. Generally when you're doing this kind of work, you don't want these hard edges. Most of the time you don't, unless that's kind of your design style. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this mask, and so that's masking kind of 101. Okay, now we're going to use another method for taking out the background. So click on any one of these selection tools, and right up here, click Select and Mask. So this is kind of a new tool in Photoshop. Really cool. Now let's click here. So here you have different view options, and we're just going to select onion skin for now. And then here's your transparency for that onion skin. And what we'll do is we'll just set it at 50. Just so we can barely, we'll set it at maybe 40. Okay. Now on the other side, this is your quick selection tool. So now what we can do is we can select the kitty, and you can see here, everything that is selected is 100%. So we can see what we're extracting. And then if we want, we can see how it looks like in different views. So this is, a lot of people like the red because it really stands out, and you can see just how well your edges are. And it looks good on a black. A white, ooh, that looks, you can really see that. So let's see if we can clean this up here. So this is the quick selection tool. Here you have your zoom tool, or you can hit Z to zoom in. And you see all this blackness right here. Let's see if we can clean this up. So the next tool is the Refine Edge tool. This is great for extracting hair and fur right here. And you don't want to select everything. You just want to select the trouble areas. And so that's what we're doing right now. I'm just painting over this area. and it should let Photoshop know that this is hair and hopefully give us a better selection. Okay. So you hit spacebar and that will put up the hand tool that you can move the canvas around. It cleaned it up a little bit. It still looks a little off. That's fine. So now what we can do is, let's go to the other side. Oh, and this is the brush tool. So if there was something I missed in the center, for example, let's go to black and white. And as you can see here, if there was something I missed around here, I can actually use the brush tool to clean it up. Let's go back to on white. All right, cool. So now this is edge detecting. So if we click Smart Radius and then put this up a few pixels, what this will do is it'll do its best to kind of create a better edge. And so it's really subtle. I don't really see the difference too much in this case. Sometimes it makes a big difference. It really depends on your image and what you have selected. Okay, so here we can smooth out our selection. And then feathering now will kind of fade out the edges so it blends better. And as you can see here, this is all feathering. And then contrast does the opposite. It will actually make everything more harsh, I guess. And so as you can see here, it's really trying to crop everything out. So if I was using the pen tool method and going over all the individual hairs, it would look more like that. So I'm going to set that back to 0, and then the feathering, maybe I'll move up just a little bit to soften that edge. And then the shift edge, what this will do is this will take your selection and you can expand it or shrink it. So here in this case, I want to shrink it because I still see too much of the original background. Now, this is really cool. You can click decontaminate colors. So I click on that, and what that will do is that will try to take away all the colors from the background. So it keeps the selection, so it doesn't change the selection, but it does its best to take out the unwanted colors. So you have kind of a better look. We'll go to feathers back to 20 pixels. There we go. All right, now I'm gonna hit select. There's our kitty. So it's kind of cool. He kind of glows, and that's because we did the feathering, and that's what feathering does. But he kind of looks like he belongs there. I'm kind of digging this. So the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna hide the kitty, and then we're gonna extract this guy. And so I think with this, I'm just gonna do it the quick way. Make sure you have the right layer selected. And I'm using the quick selection tool. I hit W for the quick selection tool, and now I'm just kind of cropping him out. Then I hold the Option or Alt to deselect to take out unwanted selected elements. And I'm going back, selecting. Now I got to get the hands. And so I just kind of zoomed in there. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller and just kind of paint over his hands with the selection tool. So I don't know if this is necessary for our final image, but just to be safe, I want to make sure I have kind of a clean crop. Alright, we got our guy. So we have our guy selected, and what I'm going to do is hit Command J or Control J, depending if you're on a Windows or PC. So we have that selected, and I'm going to move this above the kitty, put our kitty back, and now we can see that the kitty. Now this kitty, I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. Let's add some contrast. Let's really make this kitty huge because, you know, this guy's like totally like in awe of this giant cat. All right, so that's cool. And so that's masking in a nutshell. So, okay, this is our kitty. He looks pretty cool, but I wanna make him live here a little bit better. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select Command and hit my layer mask, and or Control if you're on a PC. I'm gonna select the kitty. I'm gonna hit Command J, and what that's gonna do is that's going to create a copy of my kitty on a new layer. Okay, so we have a copy. Now what we're going to do is, let's see if we can create a giant shadow to kind of make him live here even more. So go to Edit, Transform, and then Perspective. It's kind of a cool feature. And I'm just going to warp the kitty all the way over here. And let's kind of expand it down here and maybe have it shrink here. So I'm trying to match the shadow of this guy because the sun's coming from the top. And so that's good. I'm gonna hit return. There we go. And I'm gonna select this. Let's see, make sure we have our foreground layer. Option or Alt Delete. And that does, that'll kind of make it black. I'm gonna hide it underneath here. And then I'm going to change the opacity right here on this layer. Let's see here. We'll do it like, let's see. That's probably pretty good. I'm kind of digging that. And then what I want to do is I'm going to hide this for now, hide this guy for now, and what I want to do is just select this part of the cliff right here and then go back here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to here and we're going to inverse this layer. So what I'm going to do, select inverse or Command Shift I, so I prefer the hotkeys. And then we're just going to create this mask here. So I just hit the mask key. So whatever you have selected, when you hit the mask key, anything not selected will be masked. So that's pretty cool to know. There we go. He kind of looks like he lives there. Now let's add this. I'm going to add a new layer here. Hit the brush tool. I hit B for the brush tool. My opacity is a little low. Great. And I'm just going to, let's see, darken this area here just so it feels like he lives here a little bit better. So now he looks like he lives there, and this guy is bowing down to the giant kitty. All right, so now let's get our logo in. And this is our awesome company logo. So I'm going to scale this up. It's a vector object. We can scale this up to any size, and it still looks awesome. And let's see, we can move it right around there, and that's pretty cool. I think I'm digging this. Now, this is going to be on a t-shirt, so let me shrink this just a little bit more. And I want to get this more so it's in the center. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all these layers here, group them together, call this design. And then what I'm going to do is hit the move tool, make sure I have auto select and group, and I'm just going to move this down a bit. I can move it down just a bit, probably around there. Hit return, and then what I'm going to do, this is kind of photoshopping. I'm going to select this desert scene. So I'm going to select just this portion of the clouds, hit Command J. Now I have this layer. I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm just going to kind of warp this up. So they're clouds. No one's going to know. And so there we go. So now I can take my awesome logo and I can move it a little bit down towards the center here. And so to make it kind of look like, there we go. That's kind of cool. Let's see, actually, we'll move it. Let's keep it right there. Then what I'm going to do, create a new layer and have white selected. And I'm going to expand my brush, and I just want to kind of whiten this part so you can see, really see the logo. So the logo pops up a little bit more. It's really subtle. There we go. Cool. You can see the logo and that. Now, so we have everything. I'm going to put all this into another layer. Call it my t-shirt. Actually, let's call it the design. The awesome company t-shirt. Okay, cool. Our image here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this into a smart object because I don't plan on making any more changes to it. I can double click on it and edit it. And then what I'm going to do, I hit Command T, I'm going to scale this down a bit. You can see more of what's going on the t-shirt. And let's move that down a little bit. So that looks good. Cool. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a mask here. We have a new layer mask. I'm going to select a new brush. I'm going to select this kind of grungy brush right here. Let's hide this. And I have black selected, opacity to 100, flows to 100. Let's get this brush up all the way down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start chipping away at the edges with this brush. So you can see here. And this is one thing I do. This is one little trick I use. So my t-shirts don't look like they have just a big, the image is just a big block filling up the entire 15 by 18 inch space. And so you can see the effect I'm going for it. And I try to get this kind of like in a circular, that's kind of my preference, kind of like in a circular shape, because I find like that tends to work well for t-shirts. So, and then I'm just kind of getting these edges down, and let's see here. So with this specific brush, if you click on it once, it's going to kind of feather the edges. So I have to keep clicking on it to kind of make it look, to get the effect that I want. And at this point, it's just kind of like an artistic thing. Kind of digging that. It's kind of cool. So now maybe I want to move the logo down a little bit now that I have this. I can double click here and that'll open this up in kind of like a temporary Photoshop file, and I can take my awesome logo. Let's see here. I'm going to take the awesome, I'm just going to move it down a bit. Actually, I'm going to select the white shadow part, or highlight it underneath it. So that looks cool. And then what I like to do is, one thing I always do, I'm going to make sure the eyes pop out, because eyes look cool. So there we go, because I don't want to lose the coloring of the eyes. They really pop out. Much better, much better. Now he looks like, he looks like he lives there. All right, so we save this, go back, and let's see what it looks like on a black background. So that's pretty cool. I'm kind of digging it. Probably can clean it up a little bit more here, but you definitely can see the effect. And this is masking. So that's it.